Hey, my name is Lynn Schrader, and I empower men and women to step outside of their self-imposed comfort zone and live a life that they were truly meant to live all along. I'm passionate about helping people ignite a passion on their own and a fire in themselves that are really ready to live a life and change their life for good. So today I want to talk to you about this fear of failure and this fear of rejection that so many of us have. And it's this fear that really keeps us tied to doing nothing with our lives. So many times, let me ask you this. Have you ever been so afraid of something that you decided to not do anything at all? That you were paralyzed. You thought the safest thing to do so that you weren't going to fail or you weren't going to be rejected was to do nothing at all. Many of us are like that. Let me ask you this. Have you ever been a person who is so afraid of failing or of being rejected that you subconsciously sabotage any of your efforts or any of your growth? Here's an example. Maybe you have this dream or this job, this goal, but you make excuses because you're really afraid of failing, or you procrastinate because you're really afraid of failing. Or maybe you are a perfectionist and you feel like you have to have everything in order before you can do something. Those are all subconscious ways that we sabotage ourselves because we are afraid of failing. So I just had a call with a woman just a couple days ago who is a coaching client, and she's a 28-year-old woman who's ready to graduate. She's getting ready to graduate in the spring, but she's stuck. She reached out to me and said, I'd like to see if you could help me get unstuck. I have a fear of being rejected. I have a fear of failing, but I have this fear of being rejected. I have a fear of being told no or even speaking my mind. And I so want to help her. I think we made a great connection, and I think we will become friends and coaching clients this way. I also have people on my team that experience this all the time in the business that I'm doing right now. This fear of failure absolutely paralyzes people. I just worked with somebody recently who decided that she was ready to run and start this business, the business that I'm in. She was ready to go, and within 2 days, she decided she couldn't do it. She couldn't do it. She was afraid of being rejected and afraid of failing. And I so wanted to take her in my arms and say, there's a big world out there, and failure and rejection is a part of it. So as I've been thinking about these two people that just in the last couple of days that I've worked with, I've been thinking about what are some things that you and I and they can do to say no more fear of failure. Goodbye fear of failure, goodbye rejection. So the first thing that I came up with is you and I need to call our thoughts out when we have fears. We have to call them out, we have to call them on the carpet and say, just because I'm thinking something doesn't mean it's true. Just because I'm thinking it does not mean it's true. Here's an example. I'm called to stand up and speak a lot in my business. Stand up in front of crowds and give presentations or do some training. If every time I was called to do that, if my thought said, you can't do that because people are going to be whispering in the audience, they're going to be laughing, they're going to be pointing their fingers. If I called that out and I really thought about it, I'd say that's a lie. That is not true. Well, you and I have to do that all the time. What's the worst case scenario that can happen. Call it out. Call it for what it is. It's not true. 9 times out of 10, it's not true. Okay. Second thing that you and I can do to say goodbye to this unreasonable fear of failure or rejection is to just know that failure is temporary. It's temporary. We are not going to be walking around in life with this sign across our chest that says, I'm a failure. I've been rejected. It's not true. So, hi Kristen, hey Kim, we need to really look at our failures and our rejection as just part of life. It's just temporary. Move on, next. Number 3, we need to realize that the more we fail, the more we're going to succeed. It's a law of averages. The more times you fall down, the more times you're going to be able to get back up and actually do better. I think back to the very first couple of years when I was a teacher. I was a good teacher, but I wasn't as good of a teacher as I was the last day I taught school. I had to kind of stink in a way until I got really, really good at it. Same thing with the business that I'm in now. At the very first time I did it, the first couple of years, I wasn't really good at the job that I'm doing. But now, 7 years later, now I'm doing very well and at the top of the company. I had to fail and then get back up. Fail more, succeed more. You fail more, you're gonna succeed more. And that's in any situation. Any situation. If you look at somebody who's learning to play tennis, they're not going to be very good, but you give them a year or two and they're going to be a lot better. Number 4 is you and I can begin to call fear or a fear of rejection, fear of failure, friend. We can call it friend. We can sit next to it. We can invite this fear over for a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, whatever. We can invite them over and get to know where that fear came from. Just like you would be meeting somebody new for the first time and you'd say, you know, if you're in St. Louis, you'd say, where'd you go to high school? Or just in general, how many people are in your family? What do you do right now? Get to know fear, and here are some questions that you can ask fear. Where did you come from? Did teachers, when you were little, did they tell you that you should be fearful of something? Was it a coach that said I wasn't very good? Was it a parent that expected a lot out of me, and when I didn't perform, then I was thought of as a failure? You can get to know your fear, your fear of rejection, fear of failure as a friend, and start to find out a little bit about their history. Where did they come from? When's the very first time you remember fear rearing its ugly head? Get to know it like you would with a friend over a cup of coffee or a glass of wine. Another thing that you can do, number 6, is to call fear teacher or yoda, whatever you want to call it. Call fear teacher, and you can say, I can't wait to find out what you're going to teach me. I can't wait to learn from my mistakes. I can't wait to experience things and look back on them and know that they just taught me something. You can expect that that's what fear is going to do. It's going to teach you something. Failure is going to teach you something. Rejection will teach you something. Number 7, fail your way to success. That means take action. I think fail your way to success came from Thomas Edison. He said, I had to keep failing my way to success. If you've ever read about Michael Jordan, you know he says the same thing. He says he had to take thousands and thousands of shots before he knew he would play a game where he made a lot of shots. I'm sure Tiger Woods was the same way. Anybody that is really good at something had to fail their way to success. So if you look at your fear of failure, fear of rejection as I'm just going to fail my way to success, it will change your perspective. And the last one is really, really, really something that I take near and dear to my heart. And it is to look at fear, your fear of failure, your fear of rejection, and then look to the future. And, well, first of all, let me just back up and say, I posted something yesterday on Facebook that said something like, the only thing worse than giving up is wishing that you hadn't. The only thing worse than giving up is wishing that I hadn't. And I had so many people reach out to me and said, oh my gosh, I needed to read that. And I thought to myself, it is so true. So think to the future when you are facing your fears of failure and rejection and say, I do not want to live a life of would've, should've, or could've. I do not want to take my dying breath and wish I had done more or said something or chased something. I do not want to do that, and I won't let fear hold me back. If you think about, this is just an example we've all experienced it. If you think about a baby, before it walked, it failed a lot. It failed so many times. It fell on the carpet. It fell, baby skinned its little chin up, but it kept falling over and over, and then eventually it pulled itself up on a table, and eventually it cruised around the table, and then eventually it started taking steps, and it probably fell. The baby probably fell numerous times, but it got back up, and then eventually it was running. I don't know any baby who took a step or two, fell, and then decided they'd never walk again. We need to be like that baby. We need to be ready to get up, skin our knee, fall down, skin our knee, and get up again. So let me ask you this. Why are you afraid of failing? Why are you afraid of being rejected? Failure and rejection is how we grow. It doesn't feel good. I've experienced it a lot. It doesn't feel good, but we should not turn from that. If all we did in life were things that made us feel good, we'd be really limited to what we were doing. So look around you and look at your life and take an honest assessment. Are you running away from something? Are you fearful of rejection and failure? Or are you ready to get back up like that baby and eventually run into this confident, fulfilling life that you were meant to live? So think about that. If you got any value out of this video, then pass it on to someone else that you think would also get value out of it. But I don't want you to be afraid of failing or afraid of being rejected. Life is too exciting and too special to be stuck. So have a great day, guys. Thank you for watching.